Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And OBS just had an update, so I had to update my OBS before I decided to start this stream. In today's video, in today's stream, I'm actually going to be taking a little break from working on assets, and I'm going to get back into working on the animation itself. So for today's stream, I'm going to be working on scene 3. And there are a few background characters that I want to complete, that I want to work on before I work on the background for scene 3. Right now, I'm just working on a lesser background character. He's just sitting on a park bench, so I wanted to have a nice scene that's just plain and calming. This scene right here, it's merely just to display people in their normal everyday lives. If I'm being honest, I haven't really been watching much TV. Most of my time, I'm either working on my teaser trailer, or I've been like playing D&D or video games. Honestly, like I've just been sort of zeroing in on this, and like I have been applying to jobs. Like I'm not gonna lie, I just haven't really found much success. And like my dad, he says, "Oh, the job application, it takes time." Like, yeah, I know it takes time. It's just for some reason it feels like nowadays it's almost impossible to even get your foot in the door. Like it takes so much just to get hired. Like they want people who have just graduated college but who have like 10 years of experience. And that's what's wild to me is like how can you be in college but have 10 years of experience? I mean, yes, there does need to be like a knowledge of a subject and a certain aptitude for a project. But like nowadays, people don't even want to throw folks a bone. It's practically impossible, at least in my mind. I think it's almost impossible to like get a job nowadays. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I think there's some sort of like, I don't want to say festival, but maybe like one of my neighbors is having a party or something. Like I've been hearing music, and I think those are drums. I don't know what's going on. I live in the suburbs, so like it's fairly quiet. Nothing ever really happens here. Like the most that happens is pretty much what I told you, like my previous stream or like a few streams ago, which was when my uncle showed his tail and we had to call the cops. But like most of the time, nothing really happens. And like I think that's the whole, I don't want to call it a selling point, but like that's the whole thing about suburban life is it's quiet, and usually if things go right then not much really happens there. Which is nice. Like I've always been like a city guy. I've loved the idea of living near buildings. I just love architecture, to be honest. I love architecture and I like the aesthetic of just living around buildings. There's something soothing about like rain in a city. It's calming to me. And like each style, each sort of setting has their own caveats. Like with living in a big city, there's higher crime rates, and there's also like more violence. Living in the suburbia, it's quiet, but like, and living with suburbia, it's like quiet, but there's more, I want to say, pressure or more maybe judgment. Now, living in a rural area like the country, that is what scares me. Like, I don't think I could live in the countryside where there's no buildings, there's no. The police takes like what, half an hour to get at your house? Like, that is what I'm terrified of. Because, like, practically anything could happen. And I understand why people love living in the country, being in outdoors and it being quiet, little to no drama, practically everybody knows everybody. That has its own safety and that has its own comfort. And of course, I'm not knocking anyone who chooses to live in a city. I just say that, I mean, not city. I don't knock anyone who lives in the country. I'm just saying that that would not be my that would not be my ideal living arrangement. Now, if I had to move to the country for a job, of course. But personally, I don't think I could live there. And I guess that's another reason why I set the setting of my show in a city, is because I still like that idea of diversity and architecture that I wanted to project into my story. Because that's the whole thing about art and creating things in general, is there are things conscious and subconsciously that you sort of project onto your art, which is nice. People get an idea of who you are through the art and through what you make. wonder. Am I live right now? Oh, I am live right now. I was checking my channel and I didn't see my live stream. I had to go home and see it. Anyway, I guess I could talk a bit about the fashion and some of the design choices I decided to go with. So for Witches 13, for this blend of science and fantasy, I actually had to look at cyberpunk, and I also had to look at fantasy shows like Lord of the Rings. What's it called? Not Riverdale. Um, it's that show where the woman goes back in time with, I think, her husband or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Braveheart. Yeah, I was looking at Braveheart. I was looking at Cyberpunk, Lord of the Rings, and I was also looking at some other fantasy properties because for the fashion, for the design choices I did with that, I wanted to go with something that people could feasibly wear maybe 5 to 10 years from now. It's this idea that I wanted the free flowingness of fantasy clothing like tunics or dresses and other sort of trousers and garments, but I also wanted like the geometric shapes or the more um, tight fitting clothing of like that you often see in futuristic styles. And no, I'm not a okay, I am not a fashion major. I am a concept artist. So while I don't know everything there is to know about fashion, I do know some of the basics, at least when it comes to character design. So, like, some of the proper terminology is going to pass me. But essentially, I wanted to go with this idea that everyone has one baggy one baggy flowing article, and then somewhere else on their body there's going to be something tight fitting. And you're going to see that through their clothes is that you might see them with like tight sleeves or a tight shirt, but then their pants are going to be baggy, or you're going to see tight pants but they might be wearing like a jacket. Again, cuz I didn't want to go something Victorian or formal like steampunk is. If you actually look at steampunk styles, they are there are hints of Victorian era as well as very formal clothing, and it's especially something I wouldn't say prominent, but you can tell that at least in the upper city in Piltover in Arcane they do have heavy hints and heavy formal designs. Like everyone is wearing like some type of vest or jacket. And I didn't want to go something that was super formal. I wanted to go something that the common man or woman would wear in our real world because that's essentially what I'm trying to project is a feasible, almost utopia-esque modern day. I didn't want to go super high tech like Cyberpunk or Ghost in the Shell because not everyone can wear that or would like to wear that. And not everyone is a supermodel. I'm trying to get this heel right. It's not doing what I want it to do. There you go. His legs look kind of broken. Sometimes, even when you draw up a plan, sometimes it's best to just zoom out and actually look at it instead of trying to follow too closely to what you originally had in mind. Because that can actually hurt you instead of helping you. I mean, that's better. The whole thing is that the character, it's not a child, it's more so like a young adult. So I was trying to give his legs some definition, so to speak. Or not definition, but essentially what happens is if you're drawing a younger character like a child, they have barely, if any, muscle in their bodies. They're usually just fat or just chub. I mean not chub, but like children, they're either like really skinny or they may have some fat around their bones, but they're not, their body features aren't as defined as an adult would be. And their body features are usually smaller. Now, the issue I'm running into, and this happens with quite a few animators, is that whenever we're making our rough pass through something, what we usually do is we just make a quick sketch to get an idea of the motion, but oftentimes we forget to add the muscle or add the more defining or smaller marks that give an idea of character. So then in instances like this where we have to put the final line art on it, it's sort of, it doesn't usually come out as we like or as we often want it to. And it's really just a matter of taking your time as well as just keeping what you learned in mind for future projects. Like if I say, oh, like I forgot to add detail, then in my next animation, I'm going to make sure I add more detail when I'm doing my rough pass. or I make sure I'm doing other things that I may have forgotten about or forgot to include. And that's really what art is, at least when you're working on your portfolio, is art is usually a learning experience. You're always learning or you're always growing and evolving from your previous project, your previous work that you did. And it can get, I'm not gonna lie, it can get kind of disheartening because there are artists out there who, some of them are just stagnant. Some of them just have a whole bunch of projects they work on that they either never post, never submit, or they just stop working on them because they don't think that it's good enough. And like, even Picasso himself, he wasn't a master artist. If you actually look at a lot of artists, they'll likely never tell you, or they'll never show you like some of their first pieces. Sometimes it'll be like in a sketchbook or something, or in like a piece of, side content, like a book or something that they made, and then they like sneak it in at the end or at the beginning. Like, I made this, and now moving on to my actual good stuff. Some of them just never let their sort of beginning or their first pieces see the light of day. Now, for this frame right here, I'm actually gonna have to do some foreshortening because his foot is going back, so I need to decrease the size of his lower leg. Okay. I'm just working on this foot for right now. I actually have two more frames to go, so that's actually pretty good. And I think after I finish this, I'm gonna work on the couple that's walking down the sidewalk. I finished the elf that was in the foreground, and I do have to work on the wolfman in the background. He's more detailed, so I kind of have to work on a character sheet for him. Mm. It okay. Now I need to explain myself. Essentially, let's just say that this scene is merely meant to be maybe 2 to 3 seconds long. So I didn't really dedicate much time to what the background characters were meant to look like. It was just to be like uh, what are those scenes called? Like an establishing shot, an establishing scene. Like it's really meant to be just this quick, small thing. So I didn't really take much time working on it. And now I feel kind of bad. Anyway, all in all, this has been a really fun project to work on. I feel like I say that every single stream. Like, oh, this has been a fun project to work on. This has been a fun project to work on. I mean, you guys are probably tired of me saying that, but it really is. Because the big issue is that I, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys, like, I don't have a job. And, like, I've applied to jobs, I've applied to plenty jobs, many jobs. Like, I think in the last 2 weeks, I've maybe applied to 45 jobs in total. And like the next day, I either get rejections, they say, oh, your application has been viewed, or I just get ghosted. So it's like, I have to do something. I can't, I don't just want to sit here and do nothing. I have to do something. I'm not the kind of person that just can play video games all day and do nothing and do nothing. It's like, because now that I'm older and now that I'm wiser, when I was still in high school, like when I was still in middle school and high school, honestly, I could sit in front of my TV and play video games or watch TV all day because I was coming home from school and like I had just finished all my homework, so I was freaking tired and I wanted to rest. I wanted to escape and have my mind on something else. That's why I had things like video games, Destiny. Destiny was a really big game for me growing up. Um, I would also like draw, or I would read or write like stories in my free time. But like now that I'm older, I I hate free time. It feels like I'm just doing nothing. It feels like I just exist, and I hate that idea of just existing. I can't sit and do nothing. Which is why I do house chores, or I mow the lawn, or I do a bunch of stuff around the house. And I've also gotten into reading again, like reading novels and books. I bought the first three books of the Dresden Files, and that is a good read. Like, it's a nice urban fantasy series, and it really draws you in. That's besides the point. I just, I don't like the idea of existing and doing nothing. And then I see people around me, they have jobs, they have work to do, they're doing something. Whereas me, like, I'm just gonna be honest, it feels like at times when I just sit there and play video games, it feels like I'm doing nothing. And I don't like that feeling, which is why I apply to jobs, which is why I do a bunch of chores around the house, which is why I'm always trying to do laundry or do dishes or reorganize stuff because it feels really bad and I want a job. I want to work. I've applied to everywhere, but everywhere I apply to, they reject me. Even Best Buy rejected me. Like honestly, Best Buy rejected me, and I'll be seeing teenagers in college in Best Buy selling stuff at the cash register or being technicians. And me, someone who graduated college, I got rejected. Like, that, it feels like crap. It feels like shit. And it's not like I'm unqualified. The main issue is the fact that growing up, my mom and my grandmother, they didn't want me to have a part-time job. They said that they wanted me to focus on college. And that's a very reasonable thing. That's a very nice and good thing that I had parents and I had people in my life that said, "Hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. Anything you want, we'll buy it for you. Just focus on school." And even in college, they said, "Hey, don't get a job. We'll take care of it." But now I'm at that age where I feel freaking bad. I feel horrible. I feel like a freeloader. It's honestly a very disgusting feeling to depend on somebody. It's just not in my nature. And yes, there are moments in your life where you should depend on people, or where have the you should have the ability to ask for help. I'm not against asking for help. I just want to feel like I have my life together. I want to actually do something. That's why I love this channel. That's why I love that I started streaming, because it feels like I'm doing something. It feels like I'm contributing in a way. Whenever I make a video, whenever I make a new tips or tricks video for animation, or when I release a video essay, I feel like I am doing something that is contributing. I feel like I am making a difference. So, honestly, when I say this, I really do hope that you guys are enjoying these live streams and that you're able to take something from it. Because this, honestly, actually feels good to me. It feels nice doing this and making stuff for people to consume and enjoy. And even when I do get a job, even when I get like blessed, even when I'm blessed to have a job, I I would still continue YouTube. Like, I'm not going to stop. I'm not gonna just quit or give up. This actually feels nice and it feels good to me. So obviously my schedule would have to change to accommodate for my job, but for the most part, I would keep doing live streams. I would keep working on little essays, or if I figure out any tips to give people, I would do that. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I don't think this is a setting. I genuinely think that there's probably some sort of like old bug with Adobe Animate or something. Because there are times where I draw a line and it'll erase a whole portion. Or sometimes when I try to make a line thicker and redraw over it, it'll actually erase instead. And with my pen, I'm not holding the button on the side of my pen. Okay, so just to clarify, when you're drawing with a drawing tablet, the pen that comes with it, it usually has like one or two buttons on the side. And you set those buttons to do different things. If you press the button, sometimes it will activate the hand tool and you can move throughout the program like this. Other times, some people set a button to be an eraser tool. Now I have this thing set to the hand tool, but whenever I'm like drawing something, there is a chance that animate will erase what I'm drawing instead. And I don't have the eraser tool selected. It'll just erase by itself. That is the thing it does. That is the thing that happens. You see, like that. You just saw it. It it erased. It's gone. I mean, okay, this is just a theory, but I think it may have been like maybe Adobe Animate was testing a new feature or a new sort of plugin where small gestures do different things, but they decided to not incorporate it, so they removed the code. But perhaps there's like this strain of code they left in there, and that's why not all the times, but sometimes there will be bugs where it'll make things erase instead of just adding a new line or adding new detail. Anyway, it's all good. Ooh, I've almost hit an hour for my stream. Now, usually when it comes to Adobe Animate, I like to stop my streams at like 1 hour to like 1 hour to 1 hour and 11 minutes, 1 hour, um, 13 minutes. But like, I think I'm gonna try to go for longer, at least with Adobe Animate. For me personally, I just want to say that when it comes to streaming, Photoshop is definitely easier for me to stream for long periods and use for long periods. Now, I love animation. I'm an animator at heart. I could animate for hours. But sometimes, dude, you just have to take a break. There's something about drawing the same scene over and over, or like drawing slight differences amongst scenes. I'm not gonna lie, that does get to you. Even the most skilled animator, they are gonna get annoyed by stuff like that. I think that that's one of the reasons why crunch exists, or why animators in general, not all, but some of them do procrastinate. Every animator has procrastinated, or they've just taken a day long break or a week long break. Jaded Animations, Dingo Doodles, the Odd Ones Out, every animator has stagnated, or has, what's it called? Procrastinated. It's just a way of life. And that is okay. That is something that you have to account for. That is something you have to plan. Usually, animators and artists in general, that's why we have deadlines. We give ourselves deadline for certain things and certain projects. We say, hey, I want to finish XYZ by the end of this week, or hey, I want to finish XYZ by the end of this month. And sometimes things do not go to plan. Sometimes we say, hey, I want to finish this whole entire animation in a month, and then we only finish the line art. Then it takes us an extra week or two to color and shade everything, and then we forget to add our voiceover, or we forget to sync our audio, or we forget to sync our mouth animations or gestures to the audio, and then we're like, shit, I have to do this over, or I have to add more frames or add more scenes. And that is okay. As long as you have a rough plan, you can't go wrong. And that's also why art streams are a thing, and why voiceover content and speed paints are a thing. Because when we don't have a final product ready, it's always good and it's always easy to just make content out of us working on another project. That's just some shameless shit. Honestly, it's shameless, but hey, that's the truth. You guys come to me for truth. No, you guys really come to me to see me despair and freak out. But you also come to me for truth. Like shit. I'm not gonna lie. All artists do it. All artists do it. All artists make like a rough sketch or has done some sort of speed paint before. That ain't no lie. That ain't no secret. Anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, we were talking about this show that I'm making. Yes, this show, which is 13. So let me not go on another tirade and make an enemy of myself too soon. One day I'll make myself an enemy, but not today soon, I hope. Not soon. Shit. There was this culture festival. So the reason why I said shit is I went to this culture festival in Raleigh, and it's like annual thing. It's like this African culture festival. There was music, there was paraphernalia, there was like food trucks, a bunch of food trucks. And I went to this one stall that was selling jewelry like bracelets and necklaces. And I got this one really nice bracelet. It has like it's made of like this leather braided cloth with like a few beads on it, and at the center is a piece of metal that has a zodiac sign engraved into it, and I'm a Leo. But essentially, to tie it off, there's like these two dangling beads, and each time I like reach over to put in a command on my laptop, the beads will snag onto my charger. I mean, not the charger, but the power outlet for my drawing tablet. So I'm afraid of accidentally unplugging my drawing tablet. Okay. I'm done with the leg. This character is done with his animation. Let's see here. So one of the issues I actually ended up running into with the elf in the foreground is the fact that I kept having to redraw his head. And when you are. And one of the issues with animation is when you are drawing every single thing in a frame, there is a chance that you may end up distorting what you are drawing. And I was lucky enough to where when I was working on the elf in the foreground, I'm not going to show you guys it, but I was lucky that when I was working on the character in the foreground, I'm not going to lie, it did distort, but because of the way he was moving, it is easier for me to hide it if I do the proper shading and coloring later, as well as just the proper coloring choice, because again, I'm not really gonna be having the foreground character that detailed. It's mostly gonna be like a shadow character, like you would see in like early Ruby episodes, where the main characters had color and then the background characters, they were just black, like black and white. So that's what I'm gonna do. I won't do something that extreme where it's just all black, but you are gonna see some very great dull colors. And in After Effects, I'll likely put a mask layer and a film over the character to where a multiply layer, so it looks as though he's more in shadow. but that's how I'm saving myself. Now, for this foreground character, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna draw her body first, because that would be easier for me to get away with and sort of do than having to draw her body and her head. So then later I'll go back, do her head, then go back, do her eyes and nose, go back, do her hair, and then that'll be all she wrote. And like, is it a bad thing to, is it a bad thing to not be able to draw every single frame? No, that's not a bad thing. That's something that is commonplace in the field of animation, is dividing and sort of separating what you're animating and what you're doing, because it's a time saver. You can't spend months on a single animation, on a single small segment. Sometimes you do have to sort of cut your losses, so to speak. There's no kind way of saying it, but in animation, sometimes you do have to cut your losses. Sometimes you have to just finish something and say, hey, for the sake of the project, I have to move on. And that's why there are entire teams of animators. That's why you have entire departments, entire 2D and entire 3D departments. There's multiple people rigging, there's multiple people animating and working on one file or one project. And you have people who are sort of the cleanup artists, the cleanup crew, who make sure things look smooth or make sure that there aren't any blemishes or animation errors. That's their whole job. But when you're on your own or when you're just starting out, you have to do everything by yourself. You have, especially if you don't have a job or you don't have capital to pay people, you have to do everything by yourself. You have to animate by yourself, clean up by yourself, color by yourself, shade by yourself. So it's really that idea of, for the sake of my portfolio and for the sake of producing another piece that potential employers can look at, review, and want to hire me on, sometimes I just have to forego months of work, forego years of work that may happen, and I just have to finish this project. And usually, hirees or people in departments, they're not really gonna hold that against you, because they were in a similar situation or they've had to do similar things. Of course, you want to make sure that you're producing quality animations or good products, but if you are finishing something and you just flat out say, hey, like, I wanted to spend months on this, but I don't have that luxury, then they will understand. At least that's what I've been told. I don't really know specifically. It's finding that blend of producing good content and making sure that you have enough pieces in your portfolio to present. Because you can have one good animation, but they want to see not one good animation. They're going to want to see your process art, your process work. They're going to want to see how long you spent on it. Many things. And again, when you're just starting out, you don't have that luxury of spending months on a single project. And some folks like me, they're lucky. They're not patient. They're working on projects, yet at the same time, they also have their own intentions and their own sort of, let's say, ulterior motives. Even though that sounds like a negative connotation, that just is what it is. Some people have their own ulterior motives where I can use this teaser trailer as a part of my portfolio, and I can also use it to start making my own show if I wanted to, which I do want to, but like you know what I'm trying to say. Sometimes the best thing for you to do is to have multiple make projects, be smart about the projects you're working on. Have multiple uses and multiple intentions for the projects that you're doing and the projects that you're presenting to people. Like if you're an artist or a graphic designer, you could stream yourself drawing and working on a new logo, like a new logo for your channel or business cards. That's actually a really good idea. You could also be working on, you could stream yourself editing a video of like a music video or something like that. Now, I haven't seen many, I can't really call them speed paints. I haven't really seen that many time lapses of like AMVs or people streaming themselves while they're editing something. That's a whole untapped market that somebody else could tap into. And there could be like a new streaming movement of people editing videos. I haven't heard of it and I haven't seen it personally, but that is definitely something that has a potential audience. People who love AMVs or people who love watching videos now seeing how those videos are being made. That could be really awesome. Excuse me, I just took a sip of water. Thinking back, I will say that my life did not go the way I planned it to. It's funny because since I was really young, I always knew that I wanted to do something in the creative field. When I was really little, I wanted to be a game designer. Yeah, I know every kid who was born in 2000, every early 2000s kid who picked up a video game said, "I want to make video games when I grow up." And I was always a creative child, so like that's what I really wanted to do. I thought I was gonna move to Florida, go to Full Sail University, get my game design degree, XYZ, XYZ. That didn't really happen. And it was in high school when my digital media professor, I mean, not professor, but teacher said, hey, game design is very competitive. You may want to rethink that. And it wasn't in a mean way. Now, of course, being in high school, your peers are going to laugh at you or look at you sideways, and they did. But that night I went home and I said, do I really want to make video games? And now that I'm an adult, and now that I'm more knowledgeable, if I really wanted to, I could make a video game. But this isn't me as an adult. This is me like back in high school. Like what I thought, what is it about video games that you want to do? And that's when I realized I just wanted to make a story, and I just wanted to make a story that people could connect to or people could feel something from. And that was when I reevaluated myself because, again, in the 2016s, 2017s, that was when there were a lot of animated shows and those stickman fight animations or just fight animations in general that would show up on YouTube. You would see them everywhere. Like Hayum's Dojo, Camila Cuevas, who was an amazing animator, Monty Ohm, his work, his stuff, Red vs. Blue, Ruby. And I never got into fight animations, but I did always wanted to tell a story through the things I animated. And that was when I decided I actually want to be an animator. And I kept up with animation all throughout high school. I was too afraid to start a YouTube channel or post my stuff. But I kept with animation and, graphic art all throughout high school. I would complete my assignments. I was in like a private studies course where I made projects for myself and I did that. I got my ACA, my Adobe Certified Associate in Premiere Pro and Animate. So I was certified to use Adobe Animate in those products. And I went to college. And it was in college where college is pretty much a culture shock because you see people at all levels. I saw people who were amazing artists. I saw people who were worse than me. Some people who couldn't even draw a stick figure. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt envious of my peers. And I also hated myself and I hated my work. I kept comparing myself to people. And I still do. I have gotten better at comparing myself, but there is still that talk in the back of my mind, like, oh, so and so is better than you, or oh, why can't you draw like this or animate like this? But anyway, and then in college, that was when I started really going into a YouTube channel and social media. That's actually what I learned from my peers. Is my peers had their own social medias that they would post to and put stuff on, and that's what I decided to start doing. And so I would draw like character art or fan art and post it to Instagram. And recently I veered away from Instagram because I just wasn't getting the engagement that I wanted to. But I did start posting more on ArtStation and YouTube in general, which is why you have all these streams and all these videos I've done. And I've really enjoyed working on it. I really enjoyed this, just uploading segments of animations I've worked on or uploading different things like that. All in all, this has just been a really nice experience for me, and I really enjoyed doing this. And every day I get more views on my older videos, or I get a new subscriber here and there, which is just awesome, and I love it. And I'm still not where I want it to be. I still see folks younger than me or only like a year or two older than me on YouTube who are like in the millions and get like hundreds of thousands of views, and I'm still not there, but I am happy. Excuse me. Oh, I am so sorry. Excuse me. But I am so happy that I have found success. This is an amazing feeling that it feels I feel like for the first time in my life it feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I feel like I am on the path to my dreams, which is just amazing. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or a week from now or in a month or two, but I honestly think and I feel that things will be just fine for me. So I should try to worry less. Okay. And take another sip of water. I'm actually making some really good time. And yes, I am actually taking my time with this. I don't want to rush it or try to do too much. I actually ended up undercutting how long this scene would take. I thought, I'm not gonna say I thought it would take less time. More so like, so this segment is actually rather short. It's meant to be at most 2 seconds long, and it just has a bunch of characters doing like slight small things. I thought the first scene was gonna take the longest. That only took me like a week to do. The second scene is the shortest because that's just a series of tweens. And the third and final scene, those are just like very small camera movements. This scene that I'm working on now is actually taking me the most time to complete, which isn't a bad thing. Again, I'm one guy working on a teaser trailer on my own. Like there are likely an entire company, not even an entire company, but like a small team of animators could finish this in maybe a month's time if they're working daily. It's not like I'm not working daily. I am, but I'm also trying not to overwork myself at the same time. And this is taking me a while. I think I've been working on this teaser trailer for a few months now because I was still in college when I first decided to work on this. Then I had to stop for a while to focus on my video essay. Now that that's done, I can dedicate all of my time to this, and it's been nice to work on. I've enjoyed working on this. This is a good project. I just didn't realize the full extent or the full scope in the moment. And obviously, I can get this done. I am gonna finish this. Just this entire thing is a learning experience for me, and I've enjoyed it. I'm liking this. I'm going to finish this scene and just call it a day. I'm trying to get this hand right. It's taking me a while. Because of the specific angle, the knuckle that connects the index finger to the whole hand, it would be separate from the rest of the hand. So I have to try and find it and draw it. And that's what's giving me this difficulty. Yeah, so this frame is actually gonna take me a while, and I actually just heard some thunder, so I might want to cut the stream short. Well, I mean, I can't really cut it short because this is probably the longest animation stream that I've done. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be sure to stream Friday. Anyway, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share even, if you want to. And yeah, this has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.